In most places where you find the term ecclesia in the New Testament, it's either translated as assembly or just translated as church, because this is one of the words that the early church uses to refer to itself. The word ekklesia does have other meanings in Greek. And if you go back to, say, the Athenian period, several hundred years before the time of Jesus, in the same way that we would talk about a state legislature as a state assembly, sometimes in some states they'll use that terminology. Well, that word was also used for kind of legislative bodies in the era of the Greek and Roman republics, right? When you had a gathering of citizens, they would talk about that as an assembly. Now, by the time of Jesus, that terminology, the term didn't really mean that anymore, right? Because you're living under the Roman Empire, right? Dutch Sheets comes along and says, no. That word ecclesia, we need to retranslate that as legislative assembly. On the rock of Peter, on the rock of the apostles, Jesus will build his legislative assembly. And then you could play it with all kinds of things from that, right? Well, and Dutch Sheets would say, well, the church is the real legislative authority on the earth. Now, I just have to say, and pause here, as somebody who's trained in Christian theology, this is a wild interpretation, right? Like no other Christian interpreter in history, as far as I have found, prior to Dutch Sheets, has ever read that word this way, has ever understood that passage this way. And if you go and look at what happens on January 6th, Dutch Sheets was very heavily involved in organizing for January 6th. In fact, I would argue that he did more than any other Christian leader to mobilize Christians to be there on January 6th. And what do you find people talking about around the Capitol riot? They're saying, we are the ecclesia, and we are legislating, we are decreeing and declaring from heaven, and we are going to change this election.